The breaking news out of Iran, an air disaster that has killed 63 Canadians, one of the worst ever for the loss of Canadian lives, and we have comprehensive coverage of that for you with CBC News teams digging for answers today. This is the latest video into us of the aftermath, the scene just outside of Tehran. Officials say the Ukrainian passenger jet went down shortly after takeoff. There were 176 people on board, mostly Iranians, but second in terms of number, Canadians, 63. That plane was a Boeing 737-800 flying from Tehran to Kyiv, and we're hearing that flight route via Ukraine is a very popular way to fly from Iran into Canada and other Western countries. Ukrainian officials are already releasing the passenger list. We are beginning to learn where some of the Canadians are from. We're also hearing from Iranian officials that an investigation is underway. But potentially complicating it and possibly adding some uncertainty to the story is the timing of the crash, because it happened just hours after Iran fired missiles targeting U.S. forces in neighboring Iraq. We bring you extensive coverage of both of those stories today, but let's lead off with Renee Filippone, who's in our London bureau tracking the very latest on the plane crash. What are the details we have up to the hour, Renee?
Well, Heather, it was a Ukrainian International Airlines plane headed to Kyiv. It took off from Tehran's main airport early this morning. Now, we know it climbed for just 2 minutes, reaching a height of 8,000 feet when it disappeared from the flight radar. Now, images show the plane exploding on impact. It would have been filled with jet fuel since it just took off. Pictures from the crash site on the outskirts of Tehran taken by media there show debris strewn across the fields. A spokesman for Iran's transport ministry says it looked like a fire struck one of the engines, saying the pilot must have lost control, sending the plane down. This was reported on Iranian state TV. Now, initially, both Ukrainian and Iranian officials pointed to potential mechanical issues for the crash. But we're hearing now from the Ukrainian embassy in Iran, and it is saying any previous comments about the crash were not official. So the plane had 167 passengers, 9 crew members, including 82 Iranians, 63 Canadians. And according to the airline, many of the passengers on board were on the way to Ukraine, using Kyiv as a transfer point to another final destination. This airline also flies Kyiv to Toronto, which could explain the high number of Canadian casualties. And some of those casualties may have been headed yet to other parts of Canada, where there are large Iranian communities. Already on social media, family members of some of the Canadian victims are sharing their grief. They're naming names, but there has been no official confirmation on the identities of the victims yet.
And we await, anything formal from Global Affairs Canada on all of this, Renee. As we look at this just incredible field of debris, this impact and the fireball that followed, immediately it was very clear there would be no survivors in this crash. What do we know about the crash investigation? And I'm thinking also about the plane itself that has gone down.
Well, we know it was a Boeing 737-800 aircraft. Now, this is a very common single-aisle, twin-engine jetliner used in short to medium flights by airlines around the world. Now, this specific plane was built in 2016. It underwent maintenance just 2 days ago, according to the airline. The president of the airline held a briefing following the crash and spoke specifically about this plane involved. And he said it was one of the best planes we had, he says, with an amazing, reliable crew. Now, the Iranian authorities are investigating, and we're learning now Ukrainian authorities will be working with them. Iran state TV is reporting that both black boxes from the crash have been found. Now, this crash, as you have mentioned, does come just hours after Iran launched missile attacks on Iraqi bases with U.S. soldiers. The Ukrainian prime minister was asked about whether the plane could have been taken down by a missile. He is urging against any speculation before the cause of the crash is officially established.
Renee, thank you very much. Renee Filippone, who's going to be tracking the details there from our London bureau and reaction to it. And again, as I was mentioning with Renee, nothing official from Global Affairs Canada in terms of the Canadians on that plane, the 63 who have died. A lot of question about just why so many Canadians were on board, but we're looking into that again. And it seems like it was a very common and indeed relatively inexpensive route to fly between Canada and Iran through Kyiv. So we're watching that and awaiting Canadian response. We are getting this response from Canada, though, just moments ago, and it is on the story that we're also covering today, the missile attacks. What we're hearing from the Government of Canada on its site is now a warning to Canadians to avoid non-essential travel to Iran due to the volatile security situation and the regional threat of terrorism. That has just been issued. Avoid non-essential travel, the Canadian government, to Canadian citizens.